did earlier, and we'll also be doing our cookies in a jar. So first off, we're going to start with our candle holder because we do need to leave that one to dry for a fair bit before we finish the decorations. So for this one, you'll need, first I'm going to change my camera to see my bench so I can show you what you're going to need. Okay, can everyone see that? So first you're going to need a jar, a container to put your Epsom salts and glitter in, and then you'll need Epsom salts and glitter and also some PVA glue. So first off, we need roughly about a cup of Epsom salts. I'm not sure if you can see it in there. This is what is going to make the decorations on the actual candle. And then also we need to paint our jar with the PVA glue. You don't want too much PVA glue because if you put too much, then the Epsom salts will dissolve. So you'll only need just a small layer of glue. Now also, which I forgot to add, in our Epsom salts, we need to add the glitter. So I'm just using silver glitter today, but you can use any sort of glitter that you like. So whichever color glitter you use, that will be what color comes out on your jar. So I'll show you there in mine. You can see the silver on this one. So if you were to use gold, it would just have more of a gold color. And again, with the glitter, you can just add however much you would like. If you want it just slightly glittery, you add a little bit. If you want it really glittery, you can add lots. So I've just added a spoonful to my glitter. You can always add a bit more once you add a little bit if you think you need more. So first off, you'll be able to add your glitter in. We then need to paint the glass with the glue. So as I said before, we don't want a really thick layer. You want just a thin layer. You don't want it dripping because otherwise the Epsom salts will dissolve and they'll just go to liquid. So you also don't want to go right underneath the bottom of your jar because you do want it to stand properly without it being wonky. And then we only want to go up to just where the lid will sit on the jar. You don't want to go above where the lid screws on. So that will give us a bit of space then that you can decorate your jars at the top once it's dry. So with these tea light holders, you'll need to use the battery operated lights to go in them. You don't want to use an actual flame. If you don't have Epsom salts, you may be able to use like a normal cooking salt because it is a thicker salt, a coarser salt, but the Epsom salts do have that longer texture, so it does work better. I'm not sure if you can see, I'm just trying to spread out mine. Once we have our jar covered in the glue, we can roll it in our Epsom salts. If you don't have a big container, you can just sprinkle it over with your hands. I took it right up to, I'm not sure if you can see, just up to the edge here.
Okay.
Where,
Yep.
below the screw cap.
Yep. Cool.
Yep.
Thanks.
Perfect. So then we're going to roll it in the glitter to make sure that we've got all the glue covered. You may need to sprinkle some on as well. So that gives you the main part of our tea light holder. So this is such a simple activity. And as I said earlier, you can use any color glitter that you like, depending on your decor at home. You know, if you're wanting gold, if you've got more gold in your Christmas stuff, you can use like a white glitter. So it's all a white, but today I've used a silver. So once we have done the actual glitter and the Epsom salts with the glue, we do need to let it dry. So with this one, you won't want to decorate it straight away because the Epsom salts will just fall off when you touch it. When you're putting it to dry, if you put it upside down so that the top of the jar is on the bottom, just so then it doesn't stick to the paper. And I found the Epsom salts at the bottom would go soft because it was stuck to the paper. Yeah, so if you sit it upside down like that on paper, and then you'll just need it to dry. So while this is drying, we will start in a minute to do our cookies in a jar. I'll give everyone a few minutes to keep going. So with the Epsom salts, again, you don't want too much glue because the liquid will make them, the wetness of the glue will make the Epsom salts dissolve. Let's move all the glitter. So while everyone's finishing off their tea light holder, I will go through the ingredients for the cookies in a jar. So for this one, we will need 1.5 cups of plain flour, a teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of bicarb soda, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of M&Ms, or you could use chocolate chips, 1/3 cup of light brown sugar, and you just need to make sure it's packed into the measuring cup so that we get enough, and 1/2 cup of sugar. So I've got, not sure if you can see today, I've got a 750 ml jar. The recipe just fits in this jar. You would be better to have the 785 grams. You can get in the Dolmio sauce brand if you're wanting to reuse a jar that you have at home. Dolmio now have a bigger jar in their sauce range at 785 grams. And Also, if you're wanting to use a 1 litre jar, that's fine. You can just add extra M&Ms to fill up the top. Yeah, so if you've got more space in your jar, you can just add extra M&Ms.
Check these fancy jars out.
Yep, they're perfect.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so with this recipe, we need to first start with mixing our flour, baking powder, bicarb soda, and salt into a container. So in here, I've got 1.5 cups of plain flour, and I'm going to add a teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of bicarb. So mine's only 1/4 teaspoon, so I'm going to add 2. So that one we need half a teaspoon. And then for the salt, we only need 1/4 teaspoon. So once we have added all that in, we just got to give it a good mix. So you want to make sure that all the extra ingredients are mixed in well with the flour. So then when we add it into our jar, it's already pre-mixed. Okay. So once we have the flour mixed up, we need to then add it into our jar. For this, you can use a piece of paper as a funnel to make it easier to pour it in, or you can spoon it in if you like. I'm going to use a piece of paper as a funnel. If you have a funnel at home, you can use that as well. I've just folded up a bit of paper to make it a bit of a funnel to make it easier to pour my flour in. Once you have that in, you do want to give it a bit of a tap so that it flattens out and it's not a big lump in the middle, because you want to try and make your layers to your jar. So our next step for our jar is to add our M&Ms. So I'm just using coloured ones today, but if you're wanting to use, like, do this as a Christmas gift, you could get the red and green M&Ms that come out in the Christmas section. So when we add these, you need to add them really slowly, because otherwise they will move the flour and you won't get your layers. As I said at the start, if you have a bigger jar, you can add an extra layer of M&Ms at the end. So then it fills up the gap in the jar. If you don't want to add more, you don't have to. Okay. I'm not sure if you can see, I've got the layers of flour and M&Ms here. So our next step is to add 1/3 cup of light brown sugar. So when we add this one in, we want to pack it in a little bit so then it is flat. So this will also push down the M&Ms a bit. So then it gives you a bit of room to add your other sugar. As I said before, my jar is 750 mils and it's just big enough to add all the ingredients. So we've got our third layer here of the brown sugar. So now we're going to add half a cup of white sugar. So we can just add that one on top. If you've got a smaller jar, you'll just need to make sure you spread it out a little bit so that you'll be able to get your lid on. And that gives us our fourth layer of mixture. And as I said, if you've got a bigger jar, you can then add another lot of M&Ms on top. You can also, if you're wanting to do more layers, you could do half of the flour mixture and then half of the M&M mixture, half of the both salts, and then repeat that process again. So you've got more layers in it. It's entirely up to you what you would like to do. So that is our cookies in a jar. We can then pop the lid on. Now with this jar, you can decorate them. I'll show you this one that I've decorated yesterday. If you're using material, you will just need to have your material roughly an inch to between 1 to 2 inches bigger than your jar lid, so that you want to, when you put it on, it needs to hang over a bit, and you can attach it with just a rubber band. Then you can move it around. So that gives a little bit of decoration to our jar. Mine's a bit long, so you can trim it so then you can see the layers as well. Now, also in the email that we sent out to everyone, there was some gift tags. So this gives the ingredients that the people will need to use when making the cookies at home. So you'll be able to attach this tag to the jar, and then when they're making the cookies at home, you've got to mix half a cup of melted and cooled unsalted butter, 1 egg, a large egg, and 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, plus the jar mix, and give it a good mix to combine, and then roll it into balls and cook on 180 degrees for 8 to 10 minutes. So this you'll definitely need to add this one to the jar, otherwise people won't know what to make. As I said, yeah, so this was included in the email that we sent out with the Zoom links. You can laminate them if you like and make them a bit stronger, or you can make your own tags as well. So these are fantastic presents for people for Christmas. And as I said before, you can decorate it however you like. You could put the labels on stickers on the jars. It doesn't have to be on a tag. It could be, you know, stuck to the jar. You could just put a note with the present. But as long as you've got those extra ingredients list for the people that are going to be making it at a later time. So you can also, like I said before, you can use chocolate chips, or you could probably use different types of lollies in there as well, or Smarties, pretty much anything that you would like on a biscuit you can use, as long as it's not a liquid ingredient. It just needs to be a dry ingredient. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our Tealight holder to see how that's going. Mine's not too bad, it's dried a bit, so I should be able to show you how to decorate it. So with this one, you can decorate it however you like. So you could use ribbon, you could use wool, you could use cotton, pretty much anything material. So on my one that I did previously, I've just used a ribbon on the outside, and then I've done a bow with a ribbon and added some bells, so it's a bit more Christmassy. If you had some greenery for a Christmas decoration, you could add that onto it. Pretty much you could use any decorations that you like. If you don't want to use it as Christmas, you could decorate it as like an everyday use for a tea light holder. It's entirely up to you. So I'll show you quickly. When you're decorating it, you can use either PVA glue or a glue gun. So I'm going to use PVA glue today, although mine is still a bit wet. I'll show you, not sure if you can see in the camera where the glue has melted the Epsom salts a bit. Not sure if you can see up the top, but on my piece of paper that I had it sitting on, it's gone a bit damp, but that's fine. It will melt some of them. You just need to let it sit a bit longer. So when decorating this, if you want to use a PVA glue, you can just add the glue onto the top. I would use, if you've got a hot glue gun, I would use that probably over the PVA glue, because it will set straight away. It won't go into your Epsom salts. So I've just used, I'm going to pop you back onto my other screen so then you can see me doing it better. Okay, so I've just added a bit of glue to the top of my jar, so then I can wrap the decorations on it. So I'm going to just use wool today to do, so I'll do another Christmas theme. So you can just try not to touch it because it is still wet. You just wrap it around. So you can pretty much use any materials you would like. So you could use twine with some like greenery. You could use ribbon. You could use strips of wool. You don't even have to add any decorations onto this if you don't want to. You could use it as a tea light holder with just the glitter and the Epsom salts. So you can just wrap it however much you would like. I'm just going to trim mine. And then because I've used PVA glue, that will dry clear. But if you use just the normal glue gun, it will dry straight away. So I've added the wool, and I've just got a little bow that I did up with some ribbon, and I can add that on. So if you're using bows or anything like that, the glue gun will be better for your to stick it on. But if you use the PVA glue, it'll just take longer to dry. So when you stick if you're sticking anything extra on, you try and stick it over the joins. So then that covers up the ends of the material that's underneath. So I've just stuck it over the end of the wool. So then it makes it, it's falling off. So then it makes your picture and jar nice and even. It's starting to fall off. So with these ones, you'll need to hold them quite a fair bit if you are using the PVA glue. So these are our 2 Christmas gifts. So we've got one with our tea light holder. And then our second one is our cookies in the jar. So I hope everyone enjoys making those and giving them out as gifts for friends and family.